Hello and welcome to the session on History of Lighting. The very early history of technical theatre deals as much with the problem of how to get a decent amount of light on stage as with what to do with it once it gets there. Surprisingly, even with such archaic means at their disposal, early practitioners were often worrying about the same things or coming to the same conclusion as ourselves. Perhaps, since theatre came off the street and informs the outdoor arena, since the 16th century at least, the audience has remained physically removed from the action and were in need of help to see and understand clearly the events before them. It must also be said that even in the days of candle, oil and gaslight, the lighting technicians of various periods managed to create immensely wonderful and imaginative effects. At various periods, certain creative stage moments have probably never been better. In many cases, the methods used to create them are often lost in the midst of time. The Italian Renaissance. Many ideas were first described in this period of high innovation and exploration. Lighting maestro Richard Pilbrow describes it as the cradle of stage lighting. Mobile candlelight, polished bowl reflectors, light colored by silks and shone through liquid lenses are all catalogued in this period. Oil and flame are dimmed mechanically, and the use of foot lighting in particular is recorded by Serlio as early as 1530. It is important to discuss here the works of three practitioners of the period, Serlio, Sabatini and Disommi. Sebastiano Serlio deals with, among us many things, a description of the artificial lighting of a typical Renaissance theatre to be erected within an interior courtyard or hall. Serlio talks of general stage lighting and of mobile light, the latter for specific effects like representation of the sun or moon. Torches and candeliers are used as he mentions it is better to illuminate the scenes from the middle. A large number of lights are placed leaning at the front of the scene. Light is also shone through glass bowls of liquid towards the stage. Serlio talks of coloring these liquid to create light shining through diverse colors. Similarly, water-filled bowls are used behind the light source as effective but primitive reflectors. In using color, Serlio thinks very much like modern-day lighting technicians. Interestingly, he even describes the other colors needed to make up the primary colors green and red, and later about how to arrange the torches in relation to the containers of colored liquid for the best effects, particularly in terms of the amount of light required. Serlio's long manuscript comprises interesting detail on the staging of his period. He describes many feats of the staging and numerous scenic effects, among them the ability to produce smoke for effect and create the appearance of lighting. Leone Ebrio Disommi was in charge of court presentations in Mantua. Around 1556, he wrote a treatise on playwriting and theatre craft in the form of a dialogue, questions and answers between two courtiers. In this document, he makes fascinating points about the lighting of comedy and tragedy. He gets close to the describing backlights, introduces the notion of mirror reflectors, although he comments that the ancients made use of them, and deals with the concept of contrast. Dealing with lighting, Sommi starts with describing the existence of hanging lights. One of his courtiers questioned the purpose and origin of those many lights which are lighted on the roofs of the houses on the stage. I see torches in sufficient number to light the stage. This could be taken as an inquiry doubting the use of light behind the performers. However, Sommi's reply is not absolutely clear. In the comedy, the architecture also must represent happiness and joy. Then the question he put is will such lights be put out of place then in tragedies? The next question is about the need for the light to be shaded from the audience. Light that shines brightly in the eyes is extremely annoying, is the answer. But also mentions that little mirrors which are placed by some in suitable points in the perspective prove both very attractive and help by the reflection to make the scene appear more brilliant. Such mirrors eliminate eye irritation by replacing the light source and thus allowing light without smoke. Nicola Sabatini built and equipped the Teatro del Sol in Pesaro in 1636. Within 3 years, he published 2 books on the traditional practices of the theatre of his day. In these books, Sabatini wrote at some length on the subject of lighting and interestingly made a strong case against the use or overuse of footlights. He also concealed or masked many of the lights on the stage. The Sabatini succeeded in concealing the lights from the audience and directing them towards the area of performance, strengthening the light intensity. Stage illumination was expensive and cumbersome till the end of 18th century. Gaslight was invented in 1781, but it was only in 1817 that the new source was used in the theatre for the first time. It gave a brighter and smooth illumination than oil and candle lamps. The use of gas lights on the stage was an important event because one could now increase or decrease the intensity at will by checking or releasing the flow of gas through tubes from a table known as gas table without disturbing the stage activities. The introduction of control of intensity marked the second phase of development in stage lighting. Henry Irving, a creative lighting artist, exploited the system of controlling intensity of light to a great extent. He tried a number of remarkable experiments like dividing the light into a section to light various areas of the stage separately, introducing sectionalized strip lights from the top, and using colors by different means, putting off the auditorium lights during the performance, and many others. Some of Irving's methods and experiences have shaped themselves into irrefutable techniques. His experiments followed the path leading to art. Thus, Irving opened an avenue for the third phase of development in stage lighting, lighting for artistic effects. During the second half of 19th century, with its scientific and technological outlook, interest was generated in general lighting devices which were to be used in theatres. The limelight and electric arc lamp found their way onto the stage without offering new artistic possibilities, except that every new device gave brighter light than its preceding light source. They were used occasionally according to the demand of the stage performance. But it is important to note that the addition of a hood with a lens and reflector to the arc lamp was a momentous stride. The hood limited the light within it, the lens concentrated or widened the circle of the beam, and the reflector increased the intensity of light. This one seemingly small technical change completed the fundamental technical factors needed to turn stage lighting into a form of art. All development processes naturally overlap with those already in vogue. Electric lights, invented in 1879, overlapped the use of gas light on stage. In the beginning, there could not be a comparison with gas lights. Time was needed to effect improvement in stage lighting equipment. Two artists, Adolphe Eppia of Switzerland and Gordon Craig of England, were responsible for new development in the mise-en-scene of the stage and for the addition of artistic elements to stage lighting. Eppia tried to relieve the three-dimensional quality of the objects he lit by pouring in adequate light rays from various angles and directions. He even went to the extent of throwing out all two-dimensional components of the mise-en-scene like the painted curtains at the back and sides. In a way, he formalized the background and surround of the acting area by placing three-dimensional objects like blocks, levels or steps. His controlling and blending of light was symphonic in character, and because of his own musical background, Appia achieved his purpose. His scenic design overemphasized horizontally, yet he could create a balanced variety in light and shade for the first time. Gordon Craig, on the other hand, stressed vertical scenic elements in his design. Craig procured a smoother blend between light and shade by hanging curtains vertically so that they fell in smooth curves. Both Appia and Craig used colors meaningfully as well as artistically. In India, Sethu Sen, a designer from Calcutta, dumped the Parsi theatre techniques in the 30s. After completion of his assignment in the USA, he adopted modern concept of stage lighting. He also introduced the revolving stage in Calcutta. There was, however, no markable advancement noticed between mid-40s to early 50s till Thapa Sen, a living stage lighting artist renowned for his contribution in this field, carried forward the task of lighting the stage presentations as a creative art. For him, the available equipment would frequently prove insufficient to answer the effects he would envisage, and therefore he would quickly invent an indigenous substitute or an additional device, often with a very cheap material but imaginatively chosen and formed to produce astonishing and thoroughly artistic effects. A rapid technical and artistic advance in lighting took place in the West between 1900 and 1914. In a period of elaborative research and invention by illumination engineers, the most noteworthy result was the spotlight, with its beam control, which became an important stage lighting unit. The present century has seen a wide range of units like the pageant and acting area lanterns, mirror spots, ellipsoidal reflector, Fresnel spot, high-powered optical projectors, Lineback projectors, etc. Among the lamps are monoplane and biplane lamps, halogen lamps, mirror, iris shutters, pure color mediums and the like. All these lighting units and accessories are useless without the controlling devices, the dimmers. These two went through stage of development. After water dimmer, the resistance dimmer came, which is still in use of many theatre. In the late 20th century, the auto transformer dimmer was introduced in the alternating current system. The latest control system, the SCR dimmer introduced in 1960, is a landmark and has surpassed all earlier types of dimmers. Likewise, method of control near or around the stage have also undergone change from to me to time through manual control, master control, remote control, presetting memory circuit, tape devices, etc. Three things are still required for consummation of the art of stage lighting: full utilization of electricity as the source of energy, improvement in the equipment, and finally, the creative imagination of the stage lighting artist. In the modern age of specialization, individual efforts and collective efforts are all aimed at producing results, taking all factors into account. The German influences in lighting. In 20th century, German innovators were further developing the use of cyclorama. Either a backing was stretched over vertical rollers or it was dome-shaped to partially cover the stage and prevent awkward edges being visible. Bands of colored silk travelled on rollers and reflected luminous soft tints onto the neutral cyclorama. This has a far more gentle and subtle effect than direct lighting on painted black cloth. During 1920s, there was something of a battle between German lighting systems of localized spot lighting and the compartment baton made popular in Britain by Samoilov. It provided mainly flood lighting and color effects, and was also being used in the United States. In general, there were 4 main steps forward: the more efficient lamp, a better reflector, improvement in color techniques, and a shifting theatre convention which began to emphasize selective control of the stage picture. By now, light was much brighter. With each new source of light, from candle and oil through to gas and electricity, and then the more powerful reflector batons, the increase in light intensity was significant, even dramatic in some cases. By today's standards, it would still seem comparatively dark. Settings and costumes were illuminated with moving symbolic color. Light was the predominant factor used to suggest within the hollow box of the stage all the forms, color and symbolism that Adolphe Appia had dreamed about. Front projection was used more dramatically on the cyclorama in the productions where the struggle of the gorilla was projected in gigantic shadows. In 1931, Harold Schwartz's production of Waltz from Vienna at the Alhambra used great batteries of spotlights to supplement the normal batons and footlights. In the United States, the use of profile spot dates from about this time being introduced on a large scale. British lamp manufacturers were unable to make a suitable lamp for almost 30 years, and the difference in voltages prevented their importation. Emphasis on the visual creation of light continued to occupy the lighting designer's imagination throughout the next 20 years or so. Not all of the experimentation was wholly practical. In some cases, the innovation shocked audiences. In 1954, they used light and projection instead of scenery, caused quite an outrage. In 1956, Burch encouraged the use of projected photographs and moving pictures. During the post-war years, the American musical made an important impression on the world of theatre. When the first production, Oklahoma, was produced, it unveiled a totally different experience in choreography and staging. This led to the continuing influence of big musical with its all-color and lavish production techniques. Modern lighting equipment was now readily available, with most of the luminaries and dimmers familiar today. These have obviously been improved and refined. The age of the computer has further aided this pattern of finer technology and ease of control. The 20th century and beyond. Theatre practitioners of every century have sought to reinvent ways of making stage productions powerful and meaningful for their audiences. As the 20th century dawned, there came a reaction across Europe and beyond to what was perceived as the artifice of the 19th century. From Stanislavski in Russia, George Fuchs in Germany, Jarry, Antoine and Zola in France, W.B. Yeats in Ireland and Strindberg in Sweden all wanted to do away with painted clothes and fake vistas. In today's theatre world, we have an almost boundless freedom the way in which we present and reinterpret drama on stage. Sometimes it is good to remember not only where this freedom has come from, but also just how wide it is. In the technical arena, our sense of freedom can perhaps be said to date from the ideas of two great personalities, Adolphe Appia and Edward Gordon Craig. Agreement and reaction to these theatrical philosophers and others in the elite arts then led to the more abstract developments, Dadaism, Surrealism, and in the theatre, Symbolism. This in turn led others to turn to Expressionism and breadth of other theatrical styles. Another side, Bertolt Brecht, Artaud, and Grotowski in their different ways paved the way for Beckett, Sartre, Ionesco, Pirandello, Pinter, and Peter Brook and the rich diversity of theatrical styles we know today. Alongside this, inevitably a new language had to be written for the devices of scenery, furniture, costume, and of course lighting. Not all the theatrical revolutionaries of 20th century actually dealt with lighting specially. That is perhaps why Appiah and Craig are so influential as among the group. Appiah and Craig were arguably the clearest, the earliest and the most outspoken in particular about how a new language of scenic art was to be achieved. At the turn of the century, the movement away from the counterfeit scenic illusion was initially toward the naturalistic. One of the best known declarations of naturalism was made by playwright August Strindberg in the preface to his Miss Julie in 1888. In it, he calls for realistic interior setting and for the abolition of the footlights. He says of footlighting, "Does not this light from below tend to wipe out the subtler lineaments in the lower part of the face? Does it not give a false appearance to the nose and cast shadow upwards?" Adolphe Appiah anticipated the symbolic movements by deciding that the search for realism was as artificial as what had preceded it. Appiah's major works appeared in print in 1895 and 1899 about the staging appropriate to the work of Wagner written in 1891. Appiah called for scenery to the three-dimensional rather than simple painted clothes. Appiah wrote that painting and lighting are two elements which exclude each other and also called footlights the monstrosity of our modern theatre. Appiah experimented and discovered the importance of shadow to offset light. He planned his lighting with special regard to the use of shadow masses, which not only emphasized the plasticity of the setting itself but possessed an appropriated dramatic significance. There is a multiplicity of choice of the director and designer in theatre world that we always work within. This choice allows each creative team great freedom to explore the ideas and develop it in 100 ways. It is still the ideas and the applications of the lighting designer's vision that enables all these different pieces of equipment to be so effective. Today, designers are exploring the use of plastics because of the great light quality it contains. Abstract designs have transferred to the stage the optical and illusory effects of modern art. We have come a long way from crystal spheres lit by candles and even further from open sky. Lighting effects have swung from ostentatious heavenly vistas used in the 17th century to the close imitation of nature and then to symbolic pools of color. Sometimes the ideas have sought out the practical means to make them possible. Just what the future holds cannot be predicted. The past can be seen as a carousel of many different techniques and fashions, but throughout it is the role of lighting designer that has grown consistently. It is the way the available lighting has been exploited and its visual impact on the stage which helped each era to achieve its own particular magic. If we look at 20th century, it is easy to understand the doyens of theatre lighting in the context of their work and time. Let us summarize the topic. Many visual elements gather on the stage to create space and time and highlight the action. This paper is attempted to interrogate from where the theatre lights has been found in today's shape. The modern stage lighting had a drastic change in recent years. Therefore, there is a great deal to be learned by looking back into the past where the earliest theatre took place out of doors and under the sky above the source of sunlight or the moonlight with all its expected chances. Oil lamps and candles and torches might be used at night to have a dramatic effect. But when stage lighting evolved with advancing technology, it brought dramatic change to scene setting. Many experiments followed and quite a few specialized branches were born. Despite scientific knowledge being its backbone, stage lighting today is essentially evolved as an art form. Here, it is an attempt to understand the various discoveries and the influences from various periods. How the Italian influence and the scenic effect had a growth in this scenario where stages become dark and light took place many forms. We can see the changes here in each century through different personalities. Also, the arrival of gaslights, carbon arc and new inventions and improvements before and after the arrival of electricity. The creative elements of stage lighting has always been a major part of the history of stage lighting. Now, you can attempt to answer the questions given here. Describe about Serlio's invention in theatre lighting. How could you describe the modern light helps the designer for his creative work? Write short notes on 16th to 20th century stage lighting. What do you feel by using of natural lights? Is it more effective or what is the limitation that you found? Hope that you may go through the reference books for further understanding, like Guide to Stage Lighting by G. N. Dasgupta, published by Annapurna Dasgupta, New Delhi. Stage Lighting Explained by Neil Fraser, published by Crowwood Press. Create Your Own Stage Lighting by Tim Strader and John A. Williams, printed in Great Britain by Purnell and Sons Limited, Bolton. Thank you for watching this program. Hope that this session was beneficial to you. Have a nice day.